If you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do. All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am usually your co-host, Sarah, and I will continue to be so today, but I am introducing this episode for various reasons of variety. We were unable to do a new show this week, so we are replaying a couple of our favorite episodes. Today, that is episode 100, where Stacy and I talk about our favorite health advice, at least so far. And, you know, that changes as we talk about things and we learn new things, and it'll be interesting to see what new hosts Heidi and Ariane say is their favorite health advice. We'll have to maybe do another episode like this. So I hope you enjoy this replay of episode 100, and here we go with the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Stacy.
And I'm your co-host, Sarah.
And it's our 100th episode!
It is! Yay!
Except I kind of feel like one of those animals from, I want to say Henny Penny, but I feel I'm like now mixing my stories. The red hen? The one who baked the bread.
Oh, the red hen. Henny Penny's the movie where the sky is falling.
Okay, see, I knew I was mixing my stories. I feel like if I'm one of those animals and I came in during the, like, let's knead the bread thing. It's like I didn't help you grow the wheat or cut the wheat or mill the wheat, but I will help you knead the bread because I've been here less than 20 episodes. So here I am in to celebrate the 100th like I did something amazing.
You did. And, you know, we thank Mariano and Pauline for their work, and then they were originally on here, and then I did a few episodes by myself, and then we had the lovely Stacy join us. So it was a group effort.
It was a group effort too.
Yeah, group effort.
So because it's the 100th episode, I thought this time we could sort of talk about our favorite health things and not just like, here's a health thing in general and we'll try and be objective and tell you the info, but like, this is my health thing and I love it. Not, or we don't have to be that extreme, but that's kind of where I went.
I love it.
No, I loved it. Not in the Gollum sort of my precious way, but in the, ooh, hey, I like this. And I like it enough to want to share it with others. That's my level of Gollumness there.
Nice.
Is that a level?
A level of Gollumness.
Anything, so no. It's the negative Gollum score.
Stupid hobbitses.
Right. That was a bad metaphor all around. But so anyways, one of the things that I've kind of wanted to talk about for many episodes now, and haven't because it felt very much more of a just me as opposed to, hey, here's new health info, is Michael Pollan's Food Rules.
Okay.
So
I'm shocked that it's a book.
You're shocked that it's a book?
I'm shocked that that was sarcasm in case you didn't gather that.
I know it was, yes. So, interestingly, I remember I read The Omnivore's Dilemma just because it had so much buzz about it and didn't really care for it because it was like, oh, so this is science. This is science being explained and, you know, this is the history of our eating, but yeah, this is a class in a book form. Like, why do we all buzz about this? I don't understand. But I don't remember how I came across this book, but I do remember I like picked it up and bought it because it was cheaper. It was very cheap, and it was by
I buy
him.
a lot of books that way. You know, oh hey, this is 99 cents.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that cheap. I think I found it at like a Walmart, but it was cheaper than The Omnivore's Dilemma, which I hadn't liked. So I was like, okay, I'll give him another try because this one's not that bad, and this one's really simple because it's kind of, as it's just titled, it's food rules. It's rules he's kind of collected together about eating properly and how to eat.
Okay.
And so, like, his whole summary of the book is the 3 sections of the book, which are basically, you know, what should I eat? Oh, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. There, you're good. That's not the entire book, but that's kind of the summary of his whole. If you need to know anything about what to eat in life, eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
I'm just laughing because it's not exactly the opposite of what we talked about last week with keto, but, you know, keto is so much protein that I feel like it's eat meat all the time.
Yes. But I remember I was talking about this with a friend, and I was like, this would be like my thing if ever I became like a rich and famous celebrity. And they're like, oh, so what do you do to, you know, stay in a healthy weight? It's like, oh, well, I don't follow a diet except the Food Rules diet. Like, to have a name, you know, you have to have the Enter diet here,
right?
The cabbage soup diet, the whatever. I follow the Food Rules diet, which is not actually a diet at all. It's a lifestyle sort of,
right?
Which I prefer because I need things that sort of can become habits, and not like things I have to remember or count or measure or
right.
I always to be second nature.
I always think that those diets that give you the food plan seem like a good idea until I actually start looking at it and thinking, I have to go shop for this.
Right.
And then, you know, I love lists generally, but when it comes to like a diet that's a food plan, it feels, it's overwhelming, and I don't want to go buy, you know, a whole thing of whatever so I could have a teaspoon of whatever spice they're wanting me to use one time.
Well, and the reason I really like this is because a lot of the things in it, like, I call it Michael Pollan's Food Rules, but it's not. A lot of it is just sort of like traditional wisdom, almost. There's a good number of like sort of grandmother sayings or whatever,
like proverbs kind of things.
Kind of, yeah.
Or
and
cliches.
So, like, and even like one of his first rules, which I really love and actually really struggle with because of how picky I am, is don't eat anything your great grandmother wouldn't recognize as food. And he had to do.
Dang it! No Lucky Charms,
right? Yeah. Anything that colors milk, probably not.
Probably not.
But like he originally had it as like your grandmother, but then depending on your age, that's not really setting any sort of standard. So maybe your great grandmother, your great great grandmother. I'm pretty sure my great grandmother is fine because she actually was, I'm pretty sure, born in the 1800s and was a caterer. So I've been told several times growing up that she would, you know, just be in shock at like me yucking food without trying it and all that. She's like, I apologize. Blame your granddaughter. She did not raise me right. I will go with that. It's all my mother's fault. But no, that he has a lot of these just sort of, they feel almost well duh, and yet we don't really follow them anymore. Like the shopping around the outside of the supermarket. I've heard that because all the processed food
is on the inside.
So say for like, if I need to get dish detergent or something.
Right. Theoretically,
I shouldn't have to go down the aisles. That's never how it works because for some odd reason I feel the need to go up and down every aisle to make sure I got everything.
Exactly.
But so other things, I love this Chinese proverb of eating what stands on one leg is better than eating what stands on 2 legs, which is better than eating what stands on 4 legs. Because they're talking about plants, which stand on one leg.
Okay, I was, the only thing I could think of was like a stork. I'm like, or, you know, or a flamingo. What?
I could kind of see out the corner of my eye that you looked a bit confused. Yeah, so plants stand on one leg, and then poultry stands on 2, and then cows and pigs stand up. No. Okay. I mean, they do that in certain cultures, but we don't, so that was not assumed.
Sorry.
Wow.
Okay.
Going past Sarah's whole thing there, also the idea that you can sort of not to limit yourself, which I think is another thing I especially struggle with in diets of like, you can't have what I'm like, oh, yeah. I immediately want the thing you just said I can't have unless it's like something I don't eat anyways. So there's things like you can eat all the junk food you want as long as you cook it yourself, because that implies like if you're cooking French fries, right? That can be a big messy thing of you've got to fry the oil and then the potatoes and then clean that all up. So if you have to do all the cooking and cleaning for, you know, these fried whatever have you things, you're less likely to be eating those regularly than if you can just, you know, go to McDonald's and get them and someone else has to do all of that. Or someone's rule of no snacks, seconds, or sweets except on days that begin with S, which basically means the weekends. Right. Unless you're in a different country and then you might have a different rule with different languages.
Right. Right. What about holidays? How am I supposed to eat pie on Thanksgiving? Can we change? Can we change that to something that begins with S?
Or something that begins with T?
Yeah.
Treats on... No,
Yeah.
that would be terrible also. Or you could do that, I suppose. No treats except on days that begin with T. That still kind of works.
Tuesday and Thursday?
Things like that. To not be like, there's nothing I can't have, but to still be sort of moderating yourself. Or this one, and I struggle with this because I have such a terrible sweet tooth, as we talked about when we talked about the keto reset diet and how terrible that would be for me, because carbs and sweets and processed foods, and that's literally all I eat, of eating sweet foods as you find them in nature. So like fruit, and that's it. I'm just like,
which sounds great, and I love fruit.
Sounds great.
And the one, there's one few above that says if you're not hungry enough to eat an apple, you're not hungry.
Right.
I love apples, but sometimes I do not want an apple. I do not want a peach.
but that means
I
you're
want
not
chocolate.
hungry.
Right,
You have a
but
craving.
I know I'm not hungry. That's the point.
A craving is not hunger, and I always fail at that rule of like, oh, I'm hungry, eat an apple. I don't want an apple. Then you're
Right.
not hungry. That's not what the definition of hungry is.
Right, you're bored.
Yeah, or something, or you just really want to eat something totally unhealthy anyways, but you're not hungry. That's not what hungry means.
Right.
Or the one I really tried to follow when I was in grad school, because it's just very simple and I can visualize it, is the only eat enough food at a meal. I'm mixing my words there. Only eat enough food at a meal that can fit in a bowl about the size of your cupped hands.
Right.
Which I really like, because obviously that varies by person to person. So it's not like only eat 600 grams or whatever.
Right.
You know, or only eat 600 calories or what have you. But it's like, hey, if my hands are such and such a size that most likely correlates to my body size.
Right.
To some degree.
I've also heard something similar, which is limit your protein or your meat to the size of the palm of your hand.
Right,
So
yeah.
just limiting the size of, you're not having a 15-ounce steak or whatever, unless you have really big hands.
Well,
Or it's a really thick steak.
I mean... Nope. Yeah, no.
Okay.
I was thinking of the type of people that would have to work with, and then I just got lost on The Rock's cheat day that he showed me, and that's a whole nother,
That's
oh my
a whole
god, I
different-
might vomit rabbit hole. So, won't go there. Instead, I'm going to take a break to get my mind out of that rabbit hole, and we will be back with more of our favorite health advice and tips and what have you. So, stay tuned.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety. The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, where it is our 100th episode. And
Yay.
we are talking about our favorite health advice and tips and what have you. So, Sarah,
Yes, Stacey.
what are your some of your favorite health stuff?
I don't know that I have like tips necessarily, but for me, my favorite kind of health stuff is along the lines of yoga, which I don't do as much as I used to, and I need to get back into it.
Right.
Because I know it'll feel good after I stretch out a little bit. It's just that first one where I'm
Right.
like, oh, I'm not bendy. I actually worked at a place a couple years ago where the office manager was a yoga instructor. So she did a yoga class once a week, which was awesome because I didn't have to leave and go
Right.
anywhere. I just went to a different room. And so it was me. It was so much fun. It was a community thing, and it was me. And I was older than the instructor, but everyone else was in their 70s and 80s.
Aww.
So it was really low key.
Wait, the instructor was younger than everybody?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep. She was in her 20s, I was in my 30s, and everyone else was in their 70s and 80s. Irene may have been in her 90s by that point. But hey.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I for me, that's kind of a combination of, it's good stretching, a little bit of meditation, those types of things. When it comes to food, a lot of the things that we talked about in the last segment from the book that you were talking about. I don't think I said sexment. I think I said sectment.
Okay.
Section and segment was what I was going for.
Okay.
Sure. But like shopping on the outside of the supermarket makes a lot of sense. Not shopping when you're hungry makes a lot of sense. Trying to figure out why you're hungry. If you actually are hungry, or if you're bored, or if I'm bored, or if I'm stressed, or if I am just wanting comfort, those types of things, which is usually when I want chocolate. I'm still trying to figure out moderation, because sometimes I feel like I'm all or nothing. If I try to do something in moderation, then I just go overboard. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. But it's a work in progress for me, always, when it comes to health and wellness and fitness and all that good stuff.
Isn't that just life?
Yeah. I
Life
used to
is
be a
work in
lot better
progress.
at it. Yeah, it is a work in progress. I wish there was, that easy button where you just go, oh, look, there, fixed it. But yeah, it's so easy to get out of those good habits and so hard to get back into them.
Yes.
So,
Well, and I think it also, for me at least, just kind of has to be habits. It has to be let me focus on making a new habit. Because I remember reading somewhere, and maybe this is just me giving myself excuses, that you can't really break a bad habit. You have to kind of replace it with a better one. But that's my excuse of, see, I can't break my bad habits because you can't break bad habits. And I haven't yet found that better habit. So stick with the bad habit of eating totally unhealthy carbs, junk, and what have you.
right.
Because it's the bad habit's fault.
Yes.
Again, nothing is my fault this episode.
This episode, that's the theme. Nothing is Stacy's fault.
Right.
And it's so easy to justify. I mean, we as humans are so good at justifying everything. You're like, I know that I shouldn't be eating this, package of Oreos in its entirety, or
Right.
but I had a really hard day, and I'll go for a walk later,
Right.
which really doesn't excuse eating a whole package of anything, probably.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I don't want to do the ones where you count anything, because then it feels like I'm keeping score, and it's like, okay, so if I did whatever, that's a positive,
right?
So I can have this negative of a bowl of ice cream because it all equals out to 0 because I'm really good at math.
Right.
That's how it works.
Right.
Math.
Yeah, again, I haven't found that balance between that kind of thing where I am actually keeping track, because I do pretty well because I love lists and those types of things. But then that makes it so much harder for me to then try to move on from that, because to me, that's not sustainable forever, of,
Right.
keeping a strict calorie count every day. Maybe some people can do that. But then going from that to not going overboard to trying to find the moderation, still working on that one for myself. Maybe I just have to stick with the anal lists. I don't know.
I mean, I think you kind of just have to make it a part of your, I was going to say life, but that's not quite what I mean. Like, your, not personality either, but like, in the book that we were speaking about in the first segment
Section.
one of the things he gave was eat like the Greeks or the Japanese or the French, or just any sort of traditional diet,
Right.
But not only eating what they eat, but eating how they eat. Because it's very second nature to them. And so, especially, like, I love it when it's like the ugly American thing, but in America. So they come here and it's like, why do you have these like gigantic size, sugared coffees or sodas or what have you?
Right.
And that's completely not how they do it at all in their country for eating. And then we're like, why are they so thin? It's like, well, do you see the difference?
Right.
You don't get quite how, like, our sort of, well, this is normal, is possibly causing some of that.
Right. And if you think about, like, they say that French women tend to be a lot thinner than American women. But what's the traditional picture you see of, like, a little old French lady with her marketing bag? What's sticking out of the top of it? A baguette.
Right.
You know, they're eating bread.
Yeah.
So it's not like carbs are the total devil. You can't eat them and still be healthy. You just can't eat nothing but carbs.
Yeah, he brings that up, that quote-unquote French paradox. It's like, you eat a lot of white bread and cheese and wine, and what the heck is going on here? It's like, yes, but they're also eating smaller meals and not really snacking and eating, like, in a group and not by themselves and not while watching TV. So there's a difference.
Yeah, meals probably are more leisurely, so they're actually talking and, you know, taking a bite, then chatting for a while, which is something you're supposed to do. Take a bite, set your utensil down, instead of just shoveling the food into our mouths like we tend to. I've also seen those pictures of, like, an American breakfast versus a European breakfast of something like maybe yogurt and some fruit, or you know, a piece of toast and a cup of coffee, whereas then the picture on the other side is like muffins and pancakes and eggs and bacon. And, like,
if you really want to shock yourself, you should do that for school lunches and hospital food.
Yeah,
'cause it's amazing how terrible we are at both of those. Especially the school lunches
we've
thing.
agreed that ketchup is a vegetable for school lunches.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I haven't, but it's considered a vegetable.
So, yeah, I think it was Friday or Potato Day a little while ago, and so there were all these facts about fries, and one of them that was, like, debunking facts was like, okay, I know that this is a thing people think of, but just because fries are a potato and ketchup is a vegetable does not mean you're eating a salad right there.
Nice. My nieces used to call it Tuesday on a bun, because every Tuesday it was something on a bun at school. You know, it was a fish patty on a bun. It was a chicken patty on a bun. So it was Tuesday on a bun.
Yeah.
They weren't thrilled with Tuesdays on a bun.
Yeah, but ours, I mean, and again, it's just such the thing that, of course, school lunches are terrible. That's just how it is. And then you look at the things that people are eating in other countries, and I'm just like, A, super envious, but also B, you get kids to eat that?
Right.
Because I just go off the assumption that I'm super picky because my taste buds never grew past like 7. So that's why they have, you know, the kids menus here with like chicken tenders and macaroni and cheese, but in other countries it's like A, vegetables,
adult
and B,
food.
Totally adult food. Like adult food you would go to, you know, a kind of expensive restaurant to get here. Hey, that's what we serve to, you know, 8-year-olds.
Right.
Just
well,
like, what?
Have you seen the video showing Japanese school children who help make the lunches?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's awesome, because I don't know that we're learning.
I couldn't.
That we know how to cook either when we get to be adults, depending on how we grow up.
I don't know how to cook. But the microwave. That is what the microwave is for.
Which goes against everything in your book.
It
not
really
everything,
not
but
everything.
Because if your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it, and she didn't have a microwave.
I know. That's the funniest thing about not even my great-grandmother, my grandmother and her sisters, is what technology they will use and what they won't. One of them doesn't have a microwave, but does have a dishwasher. One of them has a microwave and a laptop, but doesn't. It's just like, I have all these things and think that life is wonderful with them. Why don't you have these things? I don't understand the logic behind this.
When you said don't eat anything your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize as food, I thought of my grandmother, my mother's mother, who never ate blue food. I mean, I think she would maybe eat blueberries that were naturally blue, but like blue Jello, blue, blue drinks, which is actually it's not a bad thing. Those colors really aren't found in nature.
I mean, one of the tips he gives that I, again, find a hard thing to do, because it's actually, because again, I eat so much processed food, it would be probably impossible for me to do this with the way I currently eat, is don't eat anything where you can't imagine the ingredients in nature. Right. So that's like, A, lot of those things you can't pronounce. But that would also be like all those really processed things. I was like, okay, I recognize one of the like 5 words in this ingredient. So I know you're coming from like an actual plant, but you've done a whole gazillion things to it that
Right.
What? How did you get here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't do it because I'm super on the processed food and struggling very much not to do that. But then what would I eat? But I think that's a very interesting rule to try and follow, and then see what you can actually eat if that's the case.
Right. Yep.
So we're going to take another short break. Stay tuned.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety. The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, where we are talking about our favorite health stuff.
For our 100th episode. I
Yes.
just thought I'd throw that in there again, because yay!
The 100th episode that I'm only maybe about a fifth a part of.
You're still a part of it. Just
A
go with
fifth.
it.
20%. That's like something. A good interest rate.
When TV shows reach 100 episodes, you always see them with these like ginormous conference table size cakes, which is really not. We don't have a cake.
Completely
I'm just gonna say
opposite.
that.
Also.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to have, I don't know, a kale cake or something. Which just I like kale, but a kale cake does not sound enjoyable.
No. But yeah, so a lot of the tips today, not even tips, just things I found actually implementable. Not even sure that's a word, but I'm going with it.
I like it.
Are sort of traditional based, and part of that is it feels like, see, it works because we've been doing it for entire number of years, decades, centuries here.
Right.
And I think that's kind of part of why things like the paleo diet have become so popular, because people are like, look, this is what our ancestors did. This is the whole way we've been doing it. We diverged from nature, and that's why everything's wrong.
I just decided that I'm going to write a book.
Just this moment decided?
Yep, just this moment decided. And I don't know what the title will be, but the premise will be eat like it's the zombie apocalypse. Because I have some friends who are like amazing. They grow, they have their own gardens, they do all of these things, and I'm like, when the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm heading to Minnesota and going to my friend Sarah's house, or I'm heading to New Jersey and going to Caitlin's house, because they have things stockpiled. We don't do that anymore. We don't. I think there's a subset of society that's getting back to that.
Oh, yeah.
And there's community gardens, which are great, but we've gotten away from growing our own vegetables, raising our own meat, doing all of those things that I joke about the zombie apocalypse, but if the zombie apocalypse hits, or any kind of apocalypse, most of us are going to be screwed, because we can't live without a microwave.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to do that, but then I struggle with the fact that the stuff that I would can or preserve or what have you, I wouldn't eat. So like, I have this great, beautiful image in my head of like making like wonderful strawberry preserves. I don't eat preserves in general, but I don't like strawberries, so I'm not sure where this image came from, but it just looks so great.
It's so pretty. My grandmother made the best strawberry freezer jam. It was so good. My mother used to can growing up.
Right.
I actually wrote a report. She jokingly said you should write a report on, because I was watching her can peaches or pears one day, and she jokingly said you should write a report. So me, being the dorky child I was, went outside in the summer with my little notebook and wrote how to can peaches.
That's so cute.
So I know how.
Right.
I've just never done it as an adult by myself. So
that sounds a bit sketchy.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit sort of like, I totally could do it. I don't feel like it.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote a report on it once.
Right.
That my mom graded. Totally got an A on that.
Yeah. But like, one of the sayings I love is after lunch, sleep a while, after dinner, walk a mile. Which
we don't do that here either.
We don't. And I remember reading a thing where there was an article, because my major was very social and sociological based, about how, Mexican and Latino workers who take siestas aren't lazy. That's actually a really smart idea, especially coming from where they come, and that's the hottest part of the day.
Yeah,
that was a brilliant cultural move to not die of heat exhaustion.
Yeah,
but also just that A, you are tired, but then B, at dinner, to walk after dinner. When I first heard that, I don't know why, it sort of made me think of just Pride and Prejudice. Because I guess Lizzie walks a lot.
So it's
like that's my thought of how to get me out. Oh, I have to go out and walk after dinner, like the Bennetts, because
But then
that's
the
totally
one-
what they did.
The one sister walks in the rain and almost dies. It's terrible.
She rode a horse in the rain.
But still,
That's different. It's the horse's fault.
the horse's fault. That one always cracks me up. She was in the rain, and then she's like almost on death's door.
Well, they didn't have a lot of medicine back
They
then,
didn't.
so.
I love Jane Austen. Don't get me wrong. I love Jane
Yes.
Austen.
Or like another one I really love, and I had totally heard this before I saw this book, but I still never did it, partly because of my schedule, was Breakfast Like a King, Lunch Like a Prince, Dinner Like a Pauper. Although they sometimes say, I think they'll change it, maybe supper, if you use the term supper, which I had never even heard till I was like 14, and I was like, what the heck is that?
Oh my goodness.
Dinner. It's definitely a regionalism
Yes.
sort of thing. But this idea that you shouldn't eat very late, and we talked about that on a previous episode about sleeping, of don't eat too close to bedtime. But also it's not giving your body a chance to, use those calories for anything, so it's just going to store them.
Right.
But then also the idea is if you set your food up to be, I was going to say rational, in ratio, proportion to the other meals, since most people aren't very hungry in the morning, if you're only eating so much at breakfast and that's your king meal, everything else has to be lesser. So you're just automatically eating less.
Once you get into the habit, right? I mean,
Right.
I would assume that at the beginning, if you're really used to a huge breakfast or something, you'd be starving. But
Yeah.
you have something in here about water, and there's all kinds of studies on water, but it's simple things like drinking a 8-ounce glass of water before bed reduces your risk of, because most things like heart attacks happen at night. So like drinking just an 8-ounce glass of water before bed can drastically reduce your risks of certain health problems that happen at night. Drinking an 8-ounce glass of water when you wake up then helps you with other risks. And that one's a tough one for me because I'm not thirsty whatsoever when I wake up in the morning, but when I take my allergy pill, I try to drink. I'm like, okay, drink some more water while you're taking your allergy pill just because it's good for you.
Well, part of the, I want to say it's in Japan, but it might just be in numerous places in Asia. Part of their thing of why they have such great skin is the drinking a full glass of water in the morning thing. They think it flushes out toxins or something. But also I remember hearing, and I still struggle so much to do this, that if you think you're hungry, drink a glass of water
Yep.
and wait about 20 minutes because
Yep.
it might actually be thirst, even though I'm just like, that makes no sense
Yep.
in my head, but science says so. So,
We're often dehydrated when we think we're hungry.
yes. But I also really do try to drink a glass of water before eating a meal to sort of take away some of the room in my stomach, so I'll eat less. But I only really remember to do this when I'm out at like restaurants
Right.
because they give me
They
the
give you
glass
the
of
water.
water. If
Yeah.
I have to get it myself, I always forget it.
Yeah.
But then I always, when I think of that, I think of the scene from Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood,
Which
where
one?
she
Oh.
says of like someone should go to the bathroom because that will get her food better, and then she drugs her. I'm like that.
Oh,
yeah.
Maggie
So if I
Smith.
drink my water, that'll bring my food faster. Somehow that's how that got together in my head, like segment or whatever you said earlier. Those two went together and made drink water to get food faster.
Your yayas won't drug you while you're in the bathroom, hopefully.
Right. Well, okay. That wouldn't be my fault either. So. But then a lot of other things of just like daily habits of taking a walk every day. Again, I always have to think of myself as Elizabeth Bennet to do that because Lizzie would totally walk every day.
I have dogs, and
Well-
normally that would make you take a walk every day, but our dogs have a big backyard,
Aw.
and they don't actually go for walks to go to the bathroom like some dogs. I know
Right.
some dogs who will not go in their own yard. They have to go for a walk. My dogs will not go on a walk. They'll sniff everything, but they do not. We do not go for walks for bathroom purposes, so I don't have that built-in excuse. They love to go, though, so that's fun.
Maybe when you step outside to check the mail, just make that a longer walk. Go the opposite route, take
Yeah.
the long way to the mailbox. Or
And I've done that before, and I've tried the I don't have a Fitbit, but I have a knockoff Fitbit, so trying to do the 10,000 steps a day and those
Right.
kinds of things. So there's other ways to get it in, but
I also like the either sort of learn a new language or learn a musical instrument to keep your brain sharp sort of thing. So that's my new, even though I try not to have resolutions, New Year's resolutions.
Right.
I'm going to try and alternate that. So one year it'll be a new language and the next year it'll be a new musical instrument. So I do each for 2 years because it feels like 1 year I'm like, I'm not going to get anything. I will end that year and go on to the next one and not be, because I did 3 years of Spanish in high school and I can't say almost anything in Spanish.
Yeah.
So clearly I need more than definitely 1 year to get anywhere close to sounding not like a terrible American stereotype. But then also read every day, which is
not hard.
Not hard for
the
us.
2 of us. Yeah.
No, that is we've had that habit for many, many years, but for others, because that also keeps your brain fresh. But then also to stop looking at screens an hour before bed.
Yeah.
That's really hard. I've done that for an experiment, and it did totally help my sleep. But then because of my schedule and the fact that I take public transportation, which gives me a lot of reading time, but doesn't give me a lot of, hey, things I need to do on the computer time, because my computer is at home and it takes me a while to get there. I don't get home till later and then get on the computer. It's just like I have stuff to do and it takes longer than I'd like. So on the computer till 5 minutes before I want to go to sleep.
Right. Or I read before bed. So if I'm reading an ebook, doesn't really work so well. It's on a screen.
See, this is why ebooks are terrible.
Well,
that whole reason right there. I'm just going to.
They are, but I try to counterbalance they're terrible with I'm saving trees.
I feel you should counterbalance it with this is why Hermione's bag needs to be invented. To cancel out ebooks so we can carry all the books we want with us without problems.
Wherever we go.
Science. Get on that. That's a very, very strange note to end on, but I do hope these, not even hips,
just
health advice tips, hips.
One of us may have had a stroke during this podcast. I'm not sure.
Stroke. But we like putting words together, evidently.
Yes, we do.
For some reason. I hope that all of our favorite things could be somewhat helpful to the listeners or to form new habits, if nothing else. Not even our habits, but just your own new habits.
Get thinking about what might work for you.
Yes. So on that note, thank you for joining us, however many episodes, hopefully the 100. If not, thank you for joining us on our 100th, which is very special. And I hope we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast.
Yes, I absolutely agree with Stacey. Thank you for listening. But I am going to jump in here because I introduced this episode and, it's a replay. But I wanted to jump in here while Stacey was not in the room to say that you may have noticed the last week that we had new hosts in Heidi and Ariane. That is because Stacey has decided to accept an opportunity and move on from the GSMC podcast network. We are going to miss her terribly, so she would probably be mortified if she knew I was saying this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to take this time to say thank you for being such a wonderful host, such a great person to be in the studio with. She was always prepared. She was always pleasant. She was always fun to do shows with, and I'm going to miss her. And I imagine you're probably going to miss her as well. But we're also excited to have new hosts in Heidi and Ariane, and I'm looking forward to working with them and seeing how they put their own spin on the show. So thank you to Stacey for being a part of this show for the last several months, and we wish you nothing but the best as you move forward with your future endeavors. Thank you again for listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.